Hello and welcome back to CADVent 2024, 24 days of festive design in Autodesk Fusion. For today, day 17, we are designing this festive bauble which you can screw together and put a hidden gift inside, so a little present or some sweets. And you can also customize it to give it to whoever you would like to. So let's jump into Fusion and get started. For this design, I'm going to start by creating a new component, and this is going to be the base of the bauble. So renaming that base, just put a capital B in there. So base for that one. And I'm going to create a new sketch. Now it's quite important for this to make sure the threads line up, that we're always selecting the correct plane. So I want to select the XZ plane, but I want to make sure, looking at my view cube, it is the front view of that plane. Starting off with a circle, I'm going to do a circle of 80 millimeters diameter. And then I'm just going to split this circle into 4. So across the center and across the center. Now I just want to fully define that sketch. So midpoint constrain that line, and then midpoint constrain that line to the origin. Might just have to move it up if that pops up with an error. So just making sure my sketch is fully constrained there. And then I want to add in a 2-point rectangle, snapping that over there and bring it across. Now my length, my height is going to be 4 and my length is going to be 80. I'm going to click Finish Sketch. I'm going to create a revolve, and that is going to be of these 3 profiles, and that is going to be around that central axis there. And you can start to see the bauble shape is coming together. I'm going to create a sketch, again, XZ plane from the front view, and I'm going to project through the body. So P is the shortcut for project. I want to select bodies as my filter and click OK. And that brings in these lines into the sketch that I'm working on. So if I just turn off the body, you can see what that looks like. Going to do a rectangle, change it to a center point rectangle and grab that left hand side. I'm going to do an 8 by 8 square there, and that just makes sure I've got this 4 by 4 square in here that I can use for my sweep. Turning the body back on, I'm going to create a sweep. Make sure I grab that little profile that I just created and sweep that around the object as a cut. And this is going to be the bottom bit of the bauble with the screw thread. I'm then going to create a shell of this. So selecting the top face, and I want this to be a multiplier of the number of lines on my printer. So I'm going to do 0.4 times 4 for my shell there. Now I'm going to create a section analysis so that you can see what's going on inside of the part here. So flipping that round so I can see the section analysis on here. Now we're going to add a thread to the outside of this, but we actually need to thicken this profile here. So I'm going to create a sketch on that top plane. I'm going to use an offset from the middle of that one, and I want to do that -3 millimeters. I'm then going to create an extrude of that inner profile, and I want my extent type to be to object, and I want to select that underside of that face there, and that's where the section analysis really helps us. So we can see that we've got that there. So if I just turn off the analysis, we've still got that whole shape. It's just a view so we can see what is going on with the object. Now, in order to make this part printable, I just want a little flat on the bottom to make it a little bit easier to print. So I'm going to edit that first sketch, create a line, make sure I'm snapping from one side to the other and snapping that horizontal constraint. If that didn't add automatically, you can add it from the constraints up there. Going to add a dimension from there to the bottom line, and that's going to be 1 millimeter. Now finish that. And then edit my revolve, so edit my feature, and just deselect that profile there. And this just gives me a small flat on the bottom, which means I can print that up from the print bed without needing any brims or support or rafts. I'm also going to add in a chamfer. So this overhang at the moment would need support material to print, but if you add in a chamfer from here and just drag this out, you'll see if you go too far, you'll come up with this error. So just go back beyond that, and then you can type in a number. So if you've done a different size bauble from the 80 mil, you might need to do a different size chamfer for that to work there. And now we've got a sort of printable part. I'm going to create the thread on this. So creating thread. So create and then thread. And then I'm going to select this outer profile. And our Fusion will automatically create the right size thread for you. And you can click modeled to actually model that thread on your part. And that there is our base part of our bauble. And you can see that thread around the top. And this is going to screw into the top section. So to make the top section, I'm going to activate the top level component by clicking this little button here. Click Assemble, New Components, and this one I'm going to call Top. I'm going to create a sketch, and this is where you need to make sure you create the sketch on the same plane you did the first one. So that's my XZ plane, and it's the front view on that view cube. I'm going to hide the base of my bauble just to make it a bit easier to work with. A 80mm diameter circle, again, same as the first one. And I'm going to add in those lines to split that up into the 4 quarters as I did with the first sketch. And again, I want to add in those constraints. So the midpoint constraint there, might have to move this line to do this one. So midpoint constraint there. I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle. I'll just do it up here to make it easier to add the dimensions. So this is going to be 80 minus 8mm, and my height is going to be 4. I'm going to use the midpoint constraint again for that bottom line down to the origin. I then want to create an offset from this, and this is instead of using a shell, I'm actually going to define it in the sketch that I use for the revolve. So it's going to be minus 0.4 times 4, the same as we did the shell size for the other part. And then finally, just add in a line to bring these two out to the side. Finishing that sketch, I'm going to create a revolve, and it's just going to be these 2 profiles around that central axis there, and that's a new body. And you can see that creates the object that we need there. I'm going to add in a thread, so create and thread, and it's going to be this inside profile here. And we want to model that thread as we did with the external one. Now, if I turn on the base part and the analysis, you'll now see that these 2 threads have lined up in that model of the part. Now, if yours haven't lined up, you could use the move and copy tool and use a rotation and just twist that round until the threads line up. So use that analysis to create that. It might be that you've created the sketch profiles for the original revolves on a different profile plane from me. Still in my top level component, I'm going to create a sketch on the XY plane. I'm going to do a circle around the center, and this is going to be an 8mm hole. And I'm going to extrude that. Distance is going to be to object, and that's the top surface there. And this is just going to create a hole I can put a ribbon in to hang this bauble on my tree. So you can put a ribbon in, make sure the knot sits on the inside, and then put a loop through to create that. I'm going to add a small chamfer to that surface and the bottom one, and that's going to be 0.5 millimeters, just to make a nice, neat, a non-sharp edge so it doesn't cut the ribbon or anything there. So turning off my section analysis, you can see how that looks. Turning on the base and activating the top level component, I think I want to add in a chamfer to these 2 edges. So going back to the top level component, I'm going to click modify and chamfer and just select that edge there. I think I'll do a 0.5mm chamfer there. Going back to the base, I'm also going to do that with this. Now, just a little trick to make sure everything in my timeline is in line. I'm going to roll that back 1 component, roll it forward 1 component, and then modify chamfer and that edge of 0.5mm. So this means when I go back into my full thing, this chamfer now sits in the overall timeline at the end of creating that component. And then when I drag it forward, we then have the chamfer for that one, which sits in here. It just creates this little chamfer. So when you screw them together, it's not a hard edge up against each other. Now, to create this customizable, what we're going to do is create a sketch. So make sure you have the top level component activated. We're going to construct an offset plane. I'm going to grab that front XZ plane, bring that out, and that's going to be minus 45 millimeters. And that there will just be an offset from the part. I'm going to create a sketch on that construction plane, so out here in front of the bauble. And I'm going to create some text. So I'm just going to draw the box of where I want the text to be. And I'm going to say, Merry Christmas. You could say Happy Christmas, Season's Greetings, any other festive greeting you would like. And I'm going to make that 6 millimeters tall and make sure I'm using the align center options for that. So then I can just move this around until it's in a position that I would like it to be. And then if you wanted to, so you could select this, copy, and then, so you can copy it and paste. So that's Control C, Control V if you're using a Windows keyboard, and you can bring this down underneath. I actually want to just make sure I'm lining that up over the center for both of those. Now you could just say Merry Christmas, or you could say Merry Christmas Mum, Merry Christmas Dad, Merry Christmas Granny, whatever you want to do for your customization. You could put someone's name in there. So I'm going to finish that sketch. And then I'm going to create an emboss. So create an emboss. I'm going to grab that. So I want to do the top one first. So I'm just going to activate the top level component and then going to create an emboss. I'm going to grab that Merry Christmas sketch. I'm going to select the face here. And then I just want this. I just want a very small emboss out. So I'm going to do 0.6 millimeters and click OK. And then you can see that embosses that into the bauble there. I'm going to do the same for the base. So activate the base, view that sketch, create an emboss, and I'm going to grab that text which says Granny. Make sure I'm in the emboss tool. So the text profile is Granny. The face is going to be that bottom one. And again, I just want that to be 0.6 millimeters for this one. So turning off that sketch, activating my top level component, and we can see there we've got that customized Merry Christmas Granny bauble, and you can twist these to 3D print them, twist them together and hide in a small gift or some sweets, and you can pop these on your Christmas tree. Now, if you're 3D printing this and you have really good tolerances on your 3D printer, it should work as is with the threads in that design with the interlocking thread there. However, if you want to add a little bit of manufacturing tolerance for this, just to make it a little bit easier to thread together, we can do this by adding in a parameter. So create a parameter and create a custom parameter and call this manufacturing or manufacturing tolerance. And I'm going to add in a manufacturing tolerance of minus 0.05 millimeters. So doing that there, and then I'm going to activate my base component. I'm going to do that little trick with the emboss. So actually I could do it before the emboss. Hiding the top part. And then I'm going to use the push-pull. Now push-pull is a little bit of a cheat in some scenarios, but it actually works really well for manufacturing tolerances. So I'm going to select the faces of this thread. So I want to make sure that I've got all of them. So swing it around and grab that one as well. And then I'm going to type in my manufacturing tolerance there and then press enter. And what that will do, if I show the top component as well with that offset. So if I roll that back, you'll see how close the part is, and just roll that forward. It just gives us a little bit of extra tolerance in that part there. So turning off that analysis, and we can go back here, roll forward the part, and we can start to add in some appearances. If you wanted to make this look quite cool in Fusion, we can add in some appearances. So using A on the keyboard to open up the appearance. Now we could do a nice polished gold. So that's quite a nice one, that'll look here. But if you wanted to create a custom material, so you can right click on this and then you can drag this color. And you could drag this around, so we could do like an emeraldy green, you could do a pink or a purple. And Let's go for a nice emeraldy green design on there. And there you go. A customizable hidden gift bauble in Autodesk Fusion. If you've got any questions, please do post them in the comments section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know if there's anything you'd like me to do for the rest of CADVent. We've got a few days left and I can do a few more designs. So that's all for today's session and I'll see you in the next video.